Imagine it's a Tuesday morning, no alarm, no boss, just a coffee in your hand. You glance at your phone, and there it is. While you were asleep last night, money quietly landed in your account. Not a wage, not a side hustle, just your own money, paying you. And that right there is what $910,000 can buy you in Australia. Your whole life, paid for, forever, without ever touching a cent of it. And here's what almost nobody tells you. Living off your dividends isn't some rich person fantasy. It's genuinely one of the most achievable forms of financial freedom in the world. And the reason comes down to one thing that's almost unique to us Australians. Quick note, before we dive in, everything here is general information only, not personal financial advice. So for your own situation, have a chat with a licensed advisor. Stick with me to the end, because I'll give you a 10-second formula that spits out your own number, whatever life you actually want. So what's actually going on here? It comes down to something called franking credits. And once you understand how they work, the whole picture changes. Here's how it works, in plain English. Before an Australian company pays you a single cent, it's already paid 30% tax on its profit. So when your slice of that profit lands in your account as a dividend, the government doesn't tax it all over again. It gives you a credit for the tax the company already paid, and that credit is worth real money. It's why a dividend that looks like 4% is actually worth closer to 5.5% to you. Same shares, same payout, you just keep more of it. Sounds too good to be true? It's not. It's just how the system works here. It goes all the way back to 1987, when the Hawke government decided the same dollar of profit shouldn't get taxed twice. Once inside the company, and again, in your hands. Plenty of countries have a version of this now, but Australia takes it further than almost anyone. If your credits add up to more than the tax you actually owe, the difference gets paid back to you, straight into your bank account. Think about that for a second. An investor over in the US gets taxed twice on the very same dividend. Here, you can end up paying nothing, or getting a refund from the tax office for simply owning good Australian shares. And that one quirk, franking credits, is exactly why the number you need is so much lower than you'd ever guess. So let's talk about that number, because this is where it gets real. First up, how much do you actually need to live on? The ASVA retirement standard, the industry benchmark, says a single person needs just under $55,000 a year to live comfortably, and a couple needs around $77,000. That's private health, a car in the driveway, a holiday each year, dinner out without quietly counting the cost in your head. Want something simpler? A modest lifestyle runs about $35,500 a year, just over $51,000 for a couple. And if you want the top shelf life, overseas trips, a newer car every few years, you're looking at $100,000 a year or more. Now here's the formula I promised, and it really is this simple. Take the yearly income you want and divide it by 5.5%. That's the amount you need invested. So if you want $50,000 a year, you need around $910,000. Want $75,000? Just under $1.4 million. $100,000 a year? About $1.8 million. And here's the part that should genuinely excite you. These numbers aren't reserved for high earners or people who inherited a pile of money. The average Aussie who starts early enough and stays consistent will get there. Now I know $910,000 still sounds enormous said out loud, but hold that thought, because the way you actually get there is far more doable than the number makes it look. And it gets even better because of the tax. If dividends are your only income, you can earn roughly $30,000 a year in fully franked dividends and pay almost nothing. The franking credits wipe the bill out completely, so the number isn't the scary part. The real question is how someone on an ordinary wage actually builds it. So how does a person with no inheritance and no lottery win actually build $910,000? You don't save it. That's the mistake almost everyone makes. You let it compound. Here's what that looks like. Put $1,500 a month into a broad Australian share portfolio, earning around 8% a year, which is actually below the long-term average. And you'll cross the line in about 20 years. Push it to $2,000 a month, and you're there in roughly 17. Every dividend buys you more shares, those shares pay you more dividends, and that buys you even more shares again. Left alone, the snowball rolls itself. But here's the part that matters more than how much you put in. And it's the one thing you can never buy back: time. That same $1,500 a month, started at 30 instead of 40, gets you to the finish line at 50, not 60. 10 extra years of living free while everyone around you is still stuck in traffic on their way to work. And it cuts the other way too. Wait too long, and every decade you put it off roughly triples what you have to contribute just to catch up. The best day to start was years ago. The second best day is today. There's one more lever almost everyone ignores, and it's simply where you hold all this. Inside super, your dividends are taxed at just 15% while you're building, and 0 once you retire and move into pension phase. Outside super, your money isn't locked away. You can get your hands on it long before retirement. So, a lot of people use two pots. One inside super, the long-term tax-friendly engine, and one outside it, in a brokerage account, as the bridge to freedom before they're old enough to touch their super. And if you're getting something out of this, do me a favor and subscribe. I put out something on Australian money every week, and it's the stuff most of us were just never taught. Now I've got to give you a warning, because this is the single biggest mistake new dividend investors make. When you start hunting for income, you'll come across shares advertising eye-watering yields, 10, even 12%. Every instinct says, back up the truck. Don't. A yield that high is almost always a trap. It usually means the share price has already collapsed, and the market is quietly betting the dividend is about to be cut. It's called a yield trap, and it catches thousands of beginners every single year. The tell is simple: pull up the price chart, and if the price has been falling for years, while the yield number keeps climbing, that's the trap closing in. The dividends that actually last, the ones that pay you decade after decade, come from the boring, dependable businesses. The big banks, the supermarkets, the miners, the insurers, the companies Australians hand money to every single week, in a good economy and a bad one. Boring, it turns out, is exactly what forever looks like. So how do you actually own all of this without becoming a full-time stock picker? Good news, you don't have to pick anything. A single ETF can hand you hundreds of Australian companies in one trade. Just as general examples, so you know what I mean, something like VAS tracks the biggest 300 companies on the ASX and pays around 4% plus franking. VHY leans into the higher yielding names, closer to 5 or 6%, though its payouts bounce around more year to year, and IOZ follows the ASX 200. One purchase, instant diversification, and for most people, a simple 2 ETF portfolio quietly beats the stock pickers over 20 years, and you'll sleep a lot better doing it. Set up an automatic monthly buy, switch on automatic dividend reinvestment, and honestly, the whole machine runs itself. And here's the part that quietly beats inflation. Prices climb around 3% a year. You feel it every time you do a grocery shop. But good Australian companies have lifted their dividends faster than that, year after year, for decades. So your income doesn't just keep pace with the cost of living. Over time, it pulls ahead of it. So if you take just one thing from this video, let it be this: you do not have to be rich to live off dividends in Australia. You need time, you need consistency, and you need the franking system quietly working in your favor. The number itself is just maths. Deciding to start is the only hard part. If this gave you a clearer picture of what's actually possible, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps more Australians find the channel. And subscribe. New videos on Australian money every week. Have a good one, mate.